Well, thanks everybody for joining us here this evening. It's really great to have you here. I'm John Siegmeyer, one of the members of your college and engineering alumni board, and I think we have a really great panel here this evening to share their experiences and also respond to your questions during the small group discussions. So again, thanks a lot for being here and participating in our mentor program. And I think with that real brief introduction, again, thanks for being here. And up next, Joelle is going to give a little bit more welcome and some additional information. So thanks again. Hope you have a great time this evening.
So much, John, and allow me to add my welcome to all of you. My name is Joelle Larson. I'm the College of Science and Engineering's Director of Alumni Relations, and I work on the mentor program with Andrea Hansen. We're so pleased to have you all here for our mid-year event, and I hope this spring semester is starting off well for all of you. Before we get started, as usual, I have a couple of quick Zoom housekeeping announcements, even though I know we're all old hat at Zoom by now. First, you're welcome to listen by phone if you'd prefer. You can dial 651-372-8299, and then when prompted, enter 999-2749-3723. If you do use the phone to call in to participate, we ask that you go into the chat and put your name in there so we know which phone number is associated with which person, so we can assign you to the correct breakout room. And so, as mentioned, we will be doing breakout rooms. And if you've joined from a Zoom room, which I'm guessing people probably haven't, but if you did, we ask that you go in and re-log in with your personal account because we aren't able to assign a Zoom room to a breakout session. We are recording this event and we will be posting it on the mentor program webpage and sharing it with registrants. Usually takes us about a week to do that. A note though, we will only be recording the group portions of the event. The breakout room sessions are not recorded. And if you have any questions throughout the event, put them in the chat and Andrea or I will assist you. So I think with that, my housekeeping announcements are over. And I'm now going to turn things over to Andrea, who is going to introduce our esteemed panelists and lead them through the discussion.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea Hansen. I am the Assistant Director of Events and Alumni Relations, for the college and help run the mentor program. We have a great panel today. We're really excited. So to introduce them, our first panelist is Andy Blair. Andy received his undergraduate degree in computer science in 2004 from the U and his law degree from George Washington University in 2011. As Chief Privacy Officer at Universal Music Group, he is responsible for their global privacy and cybersecurity compliance program, covering data risks in nearly 100 countries around the world. Prior to law school, Andy worked as a security analysis and software analyst, at General Mills. Our second panelist is Vita Dam. Vita received her undergraduate degree in biomedical engineering at the U in 2013. She is a cloud advisory senior manager at Accenture's Cloud First practice focused on product management, digital transformation, and digital decoupling, with expertise in driving strategic product delivery with new ways of working using emerging technologies within the travel, retail, consumer goods, and product industries. Her experience expands both functional and technical roles in managing and delivering large, complex projects for her clients. Our third panelist is Tim Leung. Tim received his undergraduate degree in computer engineering in 2005 at the U and his master's in software engineering in 2009 at the University of St. Thomas. He has mentored students in CSE since 2014 and serves as American Times Vice President of Engineering and Operations. Dawn Myers received her undergraduate degree in chemical engineering at the U in 1995 and her MBA in international management at the University of St. Thomas in 2005. She is currently a front-end innovation officer at 3M, working on technologies to enable the next generation of healthcare. She has worked in several diverse fields, from oil and gas operations to semiconductor research and development, to renewable polymer processing, to medical solution research for healthcare. And our last panelist is Eric Rasmussen. Eric received his undergraduate degree in mathematics from the U in 1987. He is the Senior Vice President for Employee Benefits Underwriting for Voya Financial. He has spent his career in the insurance industry and has held roles in operations, account management, risk management, product management, and project management. So thank you all for being here. We're really excited. I'm going to go ahead and stop our screen share and get started with our questions for our panelists. So our first question for the panelists is, how has your CSE degree prepared you for success in your career? And we're going to start with Andy on that one.
Hey, thanks, Andrea, and thank you for having me. It's great to be here, and thank you all for taking the time this evening to hang out with us. You know, after you get out of school for a while, I think everyone learns that you know, college and your education is more about learning how to learn than it's learning the stuff that you learn. And so really the critical thinking and the problem solving skills, those sorts of things that you need to develop in order to succeed and get through the courses is probably the biggest thing. And it's really, technology's changed, the fundamentals, like the substance of what you're learning in your classes is going to change over time, which is great, right? That's innovation, that's technology, that's why we're all here. And so understanding how to learn, you know, how to adapt, how to move on to the next thing and pick it up and take the fundamentals of what you learned in school and apply that. That's probably, to me, the thing that jumps out the most about you know, what the degree from CSE has done to help me prepare for you know, and I've changed a lot. You know, I went from a computer science degree to software analyst and a security analyst to law school to being a lawyer and all these different things. And so there's been a lot of learning, and so the CSE degree has been really helpful in just keeping pace with all the new things that I've jumped to throughout my career.
Great, thanks. What about you, Vita?
I think I second what Annie says, as well as the degree really helped me learn to break complex problems into easily digestible things. Like all of our lovely engineering classes, right? Learning how to problem solve in a very practical way as well. And that built that foundation for all the opportunities and all the things I do in consultancy, because we get faced with really difficult problems and we have to learn quick in our feet and learn how to decipher that problem, break into pieces, and actually solve it, like how we solve all our engineering homework problems. So, and the ability to be resilient, because I remember those tough classes and those tough things, and in the career now is really getting back up, right? And doing it again and keep doing it so that you get better and learn more as well. So that's what I would say the degree really helped me with.
Thanks, that's great. Tim, how do you think your CSE degree set you up for success?
Well, following Andy and Vita, they covered really well, because really learning how to learn is the biggest part of engineering, at least from my perspective of jumping into an industry, whether you've been in the industry or not, and changing roles throughout your career. You have to continually adapt. And so, again, being able to learn quickly is very important, which CSE did allow me to learn. The other is the resiliency part. It really resonates because you have to be able to fail and learn and then pick yourself up, as Vita said. If you're unable to do that, you get stuck in some ruts. So certainly I know there's been times at CSE where I failed a few things, right? Whether it be a test or quiz, whatever that may be. And again, getting over that and moving on to the next step, making sure you know that it's going to be okay is a big piece of that college experience.
Great. Dawn, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, sure. Maybe just continuing where Tim was, like, as you build up that ability to learn and to fail, you begin to get that confidence, right? That you can do it, right? So one small thing isn't going to change everything. Like, we're just going to keep going. You have the confidence you can learn quickly. You have the confidence you can pivot quickly. And one of the things that Vita says, breaking these things into small parts lets you see things that are patterns that you've seen before. And so you can accelerate that learning and you can jump ahead. And so it's just that breaking it up, looking for those things, finding the parts you don't, being real quick about understanding them and learning, and just having that confidence that, yeah, I can take this new challenge, I'm going to succeed, and I'm going to keep moving, right? It's been really helpful.
And finally, Eric, how do you think your CSE degree set you up for success?
Well, I think part of it taught me, don't be fifth on the panel when the four people in front of you give you a really good answer. No, I think everyone else really plays on the same theme, and I think it's consistent with the way I view it. And maybe the thing I would pull on the learning part a little bit is, as I advanced through my career, I moved from being an individual contributor into a leadership role, and that was learning new skills there as well. How do I do those things? How do you delegate to people? How do you trust that people are going to do what they need to do? And so all that learning allowed me to step into those roles and be successful from a leadership perspective, instead of just relying on my own skill set as an individual.
Great. All right. Our second question for the panel is, what are some important skills that companies are looking for in graduates, especially those skills that students can work on preparing now while they're still in school? And I'm going to start with Vita.
Unmute, apologize. I think there's a lot of skills, but one thing that we really care about, at least in consultancy, is collaboration and communication. And the reason those are, it sounds simple, but I still continue to learn it. And when you meet other people and that knows how to storytelling, communicate their ideas, their thoughts, their passion, it's just so much easier to collaborate and to work globally in a virtual and non-virtual environment. I bet we love all of our Zoom calls and all of our Teams calls, but at the same time, this also opens up the opportunity to work across the world. And when you are new and you're coming out of graduation, you think it's simple, but it's actually really hard to make sure you have good communication skills that can communicate across globally and understand different perspectives as well as you work and collaborate. There's a lot more, but I think I should leave some of them to the other panelists.
All right, Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, I think soft skills are really critical. It's one thing that I would say wasn't a top skill from my education. It was just one of experience, right? Working in groups, again, collaborating with people and communication, as Vita noted. The other thing I would really hit on is being in today's world, it's so fast paced. Engineering is so fast that a lot of people talk about agile development, being able to adapt quickly, do the iterative approach. It's very important to be able to change. And so one of the things with that is making incremental changes for the betterment and continually to do improvements is really, really critical to your success.
Great. Don, what do you think?
Sure. Vita touched on it, but the storytelling components, I always recommend to my mentees that they take a storytelling class or course online, just to get that whole idea of being able to communicate very quickly, very concisely, so people understand. And I have like this 3-word acronym or saying that we go through, and it's know, feel, do. What do you want the person to know? How do you want them to feel? And what do you want them to do? And if you can tell them that, then you're good to go. And so I think getting that story out is just super critical, because you're on Zoom, you don't ever get that face-to-face time. You may only get a few minutes. So being able to make that message resonate.
That's great. Yeah, great advice. I like that. It was know, feel, and do, right?
Yeah.
K-N-O-W, not N-O. Yeah. All right. Eric, how about you? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'll pick up a little bit on that storytelling part of it. And I think it's not only important in the workplace, but it's probably just as important as you start to try to get that job in the workplace. Each of you have an individual story to tell. Each of you have something that's unique about your background. And when you get the opportunity to interview, you need to figure out how you stand out in that situation and tell what's unique about you and why you're going to be a the employee they want. So that storytelling part's there. I totally agree with the collaboration piece, but I also say that ability to do work independently. And in this environment, it is, again, we're at Voya, we're going fully virtual. I mean, we're really using just our office space for collaboration. So we need people that can do that work individually, but then come in and collaborate and share ideas and do those things. And it's using different muscles to do that, but it's important there. But the other part I'd say on the independent part is, but that willingness to ask for help when you need it. Because I think what we see sometimes with people is they're like, oh, I'm supposed to know how to do this. And then they don't ask questions and they get sort of spinning themselves in circles sometimes when they could just, a simple question with somebody can help them get through it. So you're hearing, communication kind of flow through that, all the things I've got there.
And finally, Andy, what do you think are some of the important skills that companies are looking for from CSE grads?
Yeah, well, we just talked about a lot of learning, and I didn't learn from Eric and not go last. So no, I think the only other thing I'd say is this is something that's really, I think, out of most of your control, is that different companies have different cultures, and they're looking for different sort of kinds of people. And as you're applying for jobs, as you're looking for something, I just hired a role, for somebody. It was actually in the Netherlands over the last couple months, and the decision of who we hired came down to who do we think would just work the best in our organization. We're weird. We're a music company. Nothing makes sense. It's creatives and it's chaos. And so you have to be able to roll with that. There are different companies, banks are like different even among big banks. I mean, everybody has their own culture. So you may land a job you didn't think you were going to land, or you may not land a job that you felt you were really qualified for, because a lot of times that's what companies are ultimately looking for. Like, do I feel like this person is really like, could be part of our, our culture, and so just be conscious of that. And while companies are evaluating you, do the same to them. Try and get a feel for what it really is like to work there. And there are some places that will be really hard, type A, go, competitive, and that works for some people really like that. Other companies will be different. So, the reality behind the scenes is a lot of the stuff that companies look for is just kind of a gut feel. Could I see myself working with you? And just don't be discouraged, if that feels like it might be a situation for you, because there's so many companies, so many opportunities out there. You'll be so much happier when you find that place that really fits your vibe, fits your groove. And it'll just like your world will be way happier when you're in a situation that you fit them as well as they fit you. So just, don't be discouraged, but pay attention to that, because it really is important for your total well-being in the workplace.
Great. Okay, our third question for our panel is, how did you approach long-term goals in your career? I know a lot of students, when they're finishing college, they have that 5-year, 10-year goal in mind. They kind of have an idea of what they want to do, where they want to work. And so some of your advice and experience around long-term goals. And we're going to start with Tim this time.
Yeah, I actually had a goal to go work at Google when I graduated. I didn't make it there. Not that I didn't apply or try. Those things just kind of fell to the wayside. And the one piece of that is I just kept myself open to the opportunities that arose in my life. And the other thing is I just followed what I was passionate about. And one thing that changed, most of my career was in product development. I actually love developing technology, and I changed into developing people. And so when I took that leadership role, my goals and aspirations changed. And again, that started at a supervisor level for me, and really developed myself into a manager and a leader. So I would say follow your passion, and again, be open to those opportunities that arise.
All right, Dawn, how did you approach long-term goals in your career?
Probably something similar. So my goal when I graduated was actually I wanted to land an international position. I was very verbal about that and very kind of, as Andy had said, true to myself and true to my passion. And so when people asked, I told them, and a lot of people went, you're never going to do that, right? You can't do that. You're too young. I did do that. I ended up working in Colombia for 4 years, worked in the UK, worked in Greece. So I was able to do that. But through those jobs, I realized that what I really liked and the part that I really liked of those jobs was actually working in research and development and really working on that front end of technology. And so then the international position became less important, and finding a place where I could really work on that front end of technology and really work in those industries that were technology forward, like consumer electronics, healthcare, things like that. I kind of found my place. So again, that journey, really understanding what's making you happy at that time and really just following that, and then deciding, how you're gonna sustain that hunger and that passion going forward, right?
All right, Eric.
Okay.
What about you?
Yeah, look, I'm probably not a good one to ask this question because I don't know that I ever really thought about sort of the long term. I've always taken the perspective of do the job you're in well, and kind of keep your head down and do that work. And for me, I've been fortunate enough that that's allowed doors to open into different roles. And I mean, a little bit like Tim, you migrate into something different, and you get into leadership, and then you have to think about those things differently. So part of what I heard from Dawn, and I would say it maybe a little bit differently too, is I talk to my people a lot every day about find what gives you energy in your career. There's things during your day that are going to take energy away from you, but there's things that are going to give you energy. So find a job that's going to give you more energy than it takes away, because I don't want to burst any bubbles here, but there's parts of every job that aren't really that good. But find the ones where the good is better than the not so good part, and more frequent and more often, and I think you're going to be satisfied with things.
Great. All right, Andy.
Yeah, probably more on the Eric side of the tree here. I don't know that I had like concrete long-term plans. I mean, I came in as an aerospace engineering major, moved over to computer science, and then did that for a bit and changed to something completely different. And the core of it, like the information, data, and computer science part of it is still central to what I do. But I kind of followed where I felt I wanted to be at that point, and it's not just what you're doing. I moved back to Minnesota recently from California, and that was because of family. We had a baby and wanted to be closer to the rest of our family, and that's what drove it. And I was fortunate that post COVID, or in the world after COVID, remote is much more manageable now, and it's something we can do. But this is what's a priority for me right now, and so I think it's having a North Star of the things that you're interested in, having the things that is going to keep you interested in is really important. And the reality is most of us don't know what that is when we're, certainly getting our undergrad degree. And so, even if that changes a little bit, having that's really helpful. It gives you something to strive towards. It gives you a goal, but at the end of the day, being flexible, I think everyone on the panel seems to be on that same line, that flexibility is really, important, and being able to combine the general idea of what you want to do with the adaptability of being able to roll with the opportunities. Because I think it came up in our pre-discussion, you also don't want to miss opportunities because you're so laser focused on this is what I want to do, and then something great comes by and you're like, well, this isn't my plan, and so you don't take that open door, and you're really there's an opportunity cost to that. So it's a lot of feeling your gut and thinking about what's most important to you, and it will change, and that's okay. But I think having your core like general direction and what's important to you, trying to understand that is helpful.
All right, Vita, to round out this question, what are your thoughts?
Well, they said almost everything that I would have said. I also have like a North Star goal, because I feel like, but it's a very vague goal. Like I remember when I was young, I wanted to be a doctor. That's why I did biomedical engineering, but I love math. And then what happened was I stumbled across a company called Accenture. I did not know what Accenture did. I'm going to be very honest. Didn't know what consulting firm did or anything, but I kept my doors open, right? And I followed the passion. And the passion for Accenture was they use the color purple, and I love the color purple. I love the culture. I love the people I talked to. And I love the opportunities that they were going to open the door for, all the different industries that I get to learn more about. And then I also got to see the passion within other people at Accenture. And that was just, it was just so, I don't know, it was just one of those things like, yeah, I need to work for this company, maybe just for a year or two, and I'll see what I want to do. But it kept opening doors for me. And it kept, and I continued to refine that North Star, right? Because at the end of the day, when I think back of why I wanted to be a doctor, why I potentially wanted to be a teacher, was I wanted to help people. I wanted to grow people. And Accenture gave me so much opportunity. Like the energy that gives me energy is those one-on-one calls I have with all my junior people, the analysts, the consultants, the managers, as I help them grow, right? And that is just the energy. Yes, my project could be tough, taking away the energy of what I want to do, but the energy comes back when I get to help people. And at the core value at the end of the day is like the passion. I kept following it. I kept keeping all my doors open. I've changed careers, roles at Accenture all the time, but it was being able to take the step, take the new challenge, and continue to work on it and follow what makes you happy.
Great.
The order here real quick. Just one last thing. You're not alone on your journey. You know, take that seriously. I am someone who will get so lost in my own head and you know, overthink things. So just as a coda to that, when you're figuring out this stuff, search for people who are going to help you get there, because having an outside perspective is really important. It can be a partner. My wife is a great humbling influence in my life. Other friends, mentors, colleagues, you know, because it's not easy to understand what your priorities are all by yourself in a bubble. So seek outside guidance, seek help wherever it may be. It will really help you get a perspective and find those things that are important to you.
I second that. Ask for help. If you want an opinion, I bet you have friends. If you don't have friends, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way, but like someone
There's
out
always
there
Reddit.
will help you. There's always Reddit. Yes, there's always Reddit, but there is someone's willing to help, right? And that's the thing. Like you're not in it alone. You might feel lost sometimes, and that's okay because we all probably felt lost sometimes too.
And I would, look, I'm going to make a pitch for parents here. I've got a 23-year-old who's a 2019 University of Minnesota graduate who asks me questions all the time. And I'm flattered by that. But it's a lot of it is career. Like, what should I do in this situation? How should I handle it? And even my 27-year-old who's got an interview tomorrow is, can you look at my resume one more time? People, your parents can help. There's lots of people that can help.
Well, I'll make a pitch for mentors. Your mentors can help. That's what they're there for as well as your former mentors and fellow students and your faculty and professors and advisors. Well, that brings us really well into our last question. You all talked about opportunities and being open to opportunities. So what we want to ask is, how has being open to new opportunities brought you success? What are those things that you took on a chance maybe that paid off, or just how has that helped you? And we're going to start with Dawn this time.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess I graduated and I had a job, good job with a very large company. And I was happily, contentedly working there as an engineer, fully using my chemical engineering skills. And it was Monday morning. I got a call. It was a different company, and they said, we have a job for you. It's in South America. If you want it, you need to leave on Friday. So I talked to them, got the details, went into my manager and basically said, I've got this amazing opportunity to do something I've always wanted to do. I'm gonna leave. And they said, we can't offer you that, so go ahead, try it out. I lived in Colombia, out of Bogota in South America for about 4 years. And then at that time, decided the oil industry wasn't something I wanted to do full time or long term, and so decided to come back into the US and started working in semiconductors at another large company. And then that company culture wasn't a fit for me. So somebody had talked about, if it's not a fit, it's just not going to make you happy. So I just quit because I knew if I stayed there too long, I'd get too comfortable with it. I wouldn't look for change. So I just quit, put out some resumes, went to go hang out in Colombia for a while again with my friends. And I got another phone call. And this time they offered me, it was 3M, they offered me a job in St. Paul if I'd fly myself back. So I flew back, hadn't met the person, hadn't seen the lab, and I've been at 3M for over 22 years. So, just taking those chances and saying, it sounds good. It sounds like it's something that's gets me towards my goal, but also taking that chance or that opportunity when it didn't fit to pull back and pull away. So I didn't get stuck in something that wasn't fulfilling me, as Eric was saying, where the downside was outweighing the good side, and just letting that those opportunities come to me.
Great. That's a very exciting career. I like that. Leave on Friday, go to Columbia. Yeah. All right, Eric, what about you? How have opportunities brought you success?
Yeah, look, I think a lot of it, I touched, I think, on some of this earlier, and and a lot of us talked about being open to opportunities and the things that are there. I guess part of what I would say, the role I'm in currently, if I've been in this role for now over 10 years, and I've never stayed in one job for anywhere close to that long in my career, kind of kept moving from thing to thing. But I wasn't looking for this job. The individual before me left the company. The guy who ran the business unit said, "Hey, I need you to figure out what's going on in this unit. It's not working the way it's supposed to. It's not functioning the way we would hope it to. I want you to figure out what's going on, and I want you to find somebody." The term he used was an industry heavy hitter to take that role. So for 3 weeks, I talked to everybody and anybody, walked around, ended up having a folder worth of notes that were 2 inches thick from all the discussions I had with people. And in the interim, found somebody that I thought was a good fit for the job, and wrote a report that said, "Here's what I think's the problem. Here's how I think you should address it. And oh, by the way, I've got this guy that I think would be a good fit for the job." And the head of the business unit called me and he said, "Oh, that's great. I want to know when you're going to be." He was based in Atlanta. "When are you going to be in Minneapolis so we can set up an interview?" And he said, "I don't want to talk to the guy." And so, "What do you mean you don't want to talk to the guy? He's what you asked me to go find." He said, "I want you to do the job." Like, oh, okay. So it was totally unexpected. That wasn't what I was doing and where I was going about it. But with that opportunity was, I look back at it, it's been the most fulfilling part of my career, because it's put me in a role leading a large group of people, impacting our culture. People talked about the culture and the things we're doing every day, and it's been just very fulfilling. And it wasn't even something that was really on my radar, other than I knew I had to do something to sort of keep things moving forward because the guy before me left. And it, like I said, it's been the most gratifying thing I've done in my whole career.
All right. Andy, what about you?
Yeah, led me from a computer science major at the U to being the least cool person in the music business. So I guess that's pretty unexpected. No, but I think all of us have our own flavor of similar stories. I did something very close to my degree for a while, decided I wanted to do something else, and moved out to Washington, D.C. because I thought, there's a lot of law there. They have big buildings and fancy buildings, and there, and so I went there, and so I haven't been to quite as exotic as Don's history, but I lived in DC and New York and Los Angeles, and have traveled quite a bit for work. But it's just at the core of it is really the degree from the U. I can sit down today, and when somebody is, one of my great joys in life is, sitting down and having somebody tell me, well, we're not doing this with data. I'm like, well, yeah, your code says you are. So, and then they're like, wait, the lawyer just said what? And so, those little things, that's rooted in computer science degree from the U. And I'm sure all of you have a wide variety of degrees, but that core will really serve you well. And there's so many different ways that companies use technology, not just like computer or data technologies, but all of the other technologies. Like in our business, there are chemical engineers and mechanical engineers that work on making vinyl, right? So you're in the music industry, but you're working on manufacturing processes and that kind of stuff. So there's so many opportunities out there, and the core of it is having that, having the degree and having the experience and having the openness to kind of see where it goes. And that's not for everybody. There are people who are real happy, they find the thing that they want to do, and you go for it and you grow and you're an expert in your field, and that's awesome. But for me, I just kind of followed the breadcrumbs where they went, but it all kind of comes back to having that root in understanding the basics of the technology that I work with every day. And that served me pretty well.
Great. All right, Vita.
I totally agree that engineering degree really helps me in some random conversations all the time. Because one thing is, as I work with a lot of transformation and business people, I'm so into like storytelling and like how it works and all that stuff. And then suddenly I'm like, no, your code, that line like 52 doesn't look right. Can you guys take another look at it? And like, wait, Vita, you know how to come, like, pause, no, yes, whatever, but just relook at that code. I don't have time to do it. But it really surprises that. And then when I try to break out a problem to help someone solve it, it applies there, right? And the thing is, I still haven't lost my biomedical engineering degree sometimes, because I think there was a day that we were in the industry and talking about some medical devices. And I was like, oh my gosh, so you're talking about some arrhythmias and all that stuff for their heart. And they're like, wait, Vita, how do you know all this stuff? I'm like, well, I did a biomedical engineering degree. Of course I know science, right? But I kept the doors open, right? At Accenture, there's so many industries. Like I was in retail and I was in consumer goods. I tried banking for a couple of projects, learned that was not the culture that I like. I've been hospitality. I did some some med tech companies, and these opportunities helped me learn and grow, because wherever I went, I tried to learn as much as I can and do the best that I can do, right? And I kept the opportunities opened, and I get to do fun, cool, new technology all the time. And sometimes it might not be the best thing, it might not sound great, but you might meet the best people, right? Sometimes you just gotta get the best out of, and just keeping those doors open gives you more and more opportunities to continue to strive to where you can find your passion, sometimes if you haven't found it yet. But I'm thankful that my passions just help people and to try new things and be challenged. And I've been lucky with that, and being open gave me that opportunity.
All right, Tim, to end us off here, what are your thoughts on how being open to new opportunities has brought you success?
Yeah, this is an amazing panel. You guys have a wide range of change in your careers. I mentioned this earlier. The biggest change for me was going from an engineer into management, leadership, and developing people. It was a route I never envisioned. I actually told myself that when I got out of engineering school. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to ever be one of those guys, right? The manager. I'm going to be on the technical side in my whole career. Once I got on that path, I couldn't stop developing people. And again, it was a change that I was willing to take hesitantly. And I think what that led into, even now in my career, just I think 3 years ago, I took this operations role. I was an engineer for life, and now I'm in operations. So I had to learn how to manage even more people in manufacturing, warehouse, and basically the operations side of our business. I remember telling my leader, I don't want to do this. This isn't what I'm passionate about. That's not what I want to do. And much like Eric's experience, he told me, hey, we need help here, and we believe you can do it. And so I took on that role, and I honestly couldn't be happier with that choice. Again, I learned a lot from the people that I worked with. And again, it gave me new exposure and experience that I would have never had if I didn't take that step. So one last statement there is somebody told me this at one point in time, is more dreams are crushed by fear than by failure, meaning being afraid to take that step will prevent you from getting there more than if you tried and failed. So again, that would be my closing statement.
That is a great closing statement. I like that a lot. A great place to end. Any other, our panelists, any other thoughts? Do you have any great pearls of wisdom like that you want to drop before we finish up our panel?
And other stuff to do. I was in the marching band at the U, so if anybody were out there, try the trumpet section, let's go. But there's so many clubs out there, and stuff from the team that puts together the holiday lights to the solar cars, and I was just looking around recently, like the maker spaces and stuff in our campus. It's like really cool now. I kind of wish I could go back and start over, but take advantage of the fact that you're in a place that has so many different things that you can get involved in that develop these different skills. All the things we're talking about, classroom isn't really the best place to develop most of those things. So get out and take advantage of being on one of the most diverse, largest opportunities in a metropolitan area universities in the country. It's really there's great stuff at the U, and don't get out there and do stuff. Whatever it is, get in contact with different groups, join in and learn some of the stuff through those opportunities will really, really, really help you.
One thing to piggyback on that, Andy, that was a great comment. My niece is absolutely brilliant. She's at the U right now, studying to be a surgeon. And when she talks to me, I ask her, I'm like, what is your passion? What do you want to do? And she's like, I don't know. And I'm like, you're absolutely brilliant. What do you mean you don't know? She doesn't know. She's great at everything she does. And the more I've mentored, the more I realize almost everyone feels the same way. And so one thing that you just said, Andy, that really resonates is try everything you can, every experience you can have, because that's how you find your passion. That's how you stumble upon it. So again, don't be afraid to take those steps and try new things, because you will find your calling per se.
And my only twist on that too would be find those things that are de-stressors for you. Your days, whatever that is, that at the end of your day, you need to do something to sort of unwind and de-stress. And it might be playing intramural basketball. It might be joining some club. It might be whatever those things are, but that's an important skill as you go through your life. I can't tell you how long it took me to figure out, okay, what's the thing I'm going to do to kind of unwind at the end of the day that can put me in the right place for my family.
All right, Vida or Dawn, any last words you have too?
Andy, I actually wrote down your quote. That was really good. I totally, as I took out my notebook, it's like quote notebook. Like if I hear a good quote, I put it in my.
I'm gonna have to rely on you.
Huh?
I don't remember what it said. So.
Oh, actually, so it was Tim. It's Tim's quote. I so apologize.
Okay. Tim's
but anything that I think that's one thing too is follow. No one knows what they want to do, and you don't have to feel like you have to know. I still don't know what I want to do. I just take the opportunities, any doors that open, and try it. I know what I don't like to do, and that's okay. And that's the thing. Like I avoid things I don't like to do so that I can continue to find things that I can try and like to do and energize myself. I know what my passion is. Like if I need a day break, I play some Switch games, some Animal Crossing, some Pokemon. I know, and then or I go snowboarding. But that's my de-stressor, and I keep that very close, right? And as you think about that, find your de-stressors, find your passion, and try things, and then start putting them in buckets slowly. And things will change. I never found out that I enjoyed audibles until recently, right? I never knew all that stuff until recently, but you gotta try and then just be open.
All right, I think that's a great place to end it. We don't have a ton of time left, but we want to get everyone into small groups to talk a little bit about about the panel, about what you heard. Mentors, you can share. Let me pull this up quick. You can go ahead and share your own stories, your own experiences with your career path, with your degree. Students, ask any questions you have. I think we're going to have about 10 minutes. And when we come back, we're just going to really quickly do some closing announcements and save the date for the next mentor program event. So Joelle is going to put everyone in breakout rooms. Each breakout room does have a host, and that host will introduce themselves and get y'all started to chat. I will also ask our panelists, if you're willing, throw your LinkedIn or your emails into the chat. And if anybody has questions for the panelists or wants to learn more or talk to them, feel free to reach out.
It's just going to take me 1 minute. We had some people drop off, so I'm just evening out the rooms here, and then we'll get going. Okay, are we ready? Can I open the rooms?
I think we're ready.
I think our number has stopped climbing, so we must all be back. I hope you had good discussions. I'm sorry that was shorter than we had hoped. Normally at this point, we would ask our room hosts to kind of report on some of the main themes of their room, but we wanted to give you the couple extra minutes in the room. So we're just going to skip that. I'm going to give a couple closing announcements, and then you can all go about your evening. I will say, look in the chat, because I know some of our presenters have been putting their contact information there if you're looking to contact them and get more information or have questions for them. And in the meantime, I'm going to just quickly run us through these closing announcements. So first, I want to let you all know about the final event of our mentor program year, which will be coming up on April 7th at McNamara Alumni Center from 5:15 to 7:15. It will be an in-person dinner, fingers crossed, for mentors and students from mentor programs across the University of Minnesota. And it's always a really wonderful event. Great chance for students to thank their mentors and for mentors to be recognized for giving their time and talents to help all of our students. So watch for an email in early March once registration opens with details for that. The event is free, and I hope you'll all be able to make it. And then one other thing we wanted to mention to everybody, February is Career Month at the University of Minnesota Alumni Association, and they have a ton of different webinars available. They're open to U of M students, alumni, and friends. Many of them are free. You can find the full schedule of events at umnalumni.org/career-month. And in particular, I'd like to call out this event on February 17th called Maroon and Gold Connections. It's an event for U of M alumni and students to connect with one another through a virtual platform called Hopin. And you can do one-on-one conversations. You can do small group conversations like our breakout room. There'll be a keynote speaker. It should be really interesting. And it's also free. So I think Andrea just put a link for that in the chat, or if you go to that Career Month website, all the information can be found there as well. And then finally, as we end every program, I'd like to remind you that you can always contact Andrea or I if you have any questions, if there's anything we can do to help you. Don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to help and make sure you all have the best experience possible. And once again, thank you for coming. I know it's getting late, so with that, I will just remind everyone we have been recording this presentation and we'll circulate it. Please feel free to share it. And we'll also be putting it on the mentor program website. So with that, thanks all of you so much for attending, and have a great evening. Take care.